Hello and welcome back to the Deep Dive. It is January 17th, 2026. And I have to say, looking at that date, it just feels like we've officially arrived in the future, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah.
Just saying the number 2026, it sounds like the setting for a sci-fi novel someone wrote back in the 90s.
Totally. And speaking of sci-fi, do you remember maybe 5, even 7 years ago, the whole conversation around AI in Hollywood was, well, it was basically just panic.
Oh,
It was the Terminators coming for the screenwriters. It was all doom scrolling about deep fakes and the death of art.
I remember it so vividly. It was a very polarized, very emotional time. It went from, this is a gimmick to this is an existential threat almost overnight.
Yeah.
Everyone was just bracing for impact, expecting these machines to just steamroll the entire creative industry.
But here we are. It's 2026. The sky hasn't fallen. Well, at least not in the way we thought it would. And today, we're doing a deep dive into an article by Retresh Ramam from RMN Stars that suggests we've moved past that panic phase. We've entered a new phase entirely.
He calls it a multifaceted evolution. And that is such a crucial shift in language. We aren't talking about a war between humans and machines anymore. We are talking about AI becoming part of the actual DNA of filmmaking. It's becoming infrastructural.
So it's less Terminator and more, like an Iron Man suit. It's the armor, not the pilot.
That's a really good analogy. And Raman's analysis is so comprehensive because he breaks this evolution down into three very distinct layers. It's not just about, making cool videos or generating images. It goes much, much deeper into the machinery of the industry.
Right. So our mission today is to unpack those three layers. We're going to look at the money, this AI first pipeline that's changing how movies get funded. Then we'll look at the tools, the cinematic sandbox that companies like Google are building. And finally, and I think this is the most interesting part, the why. The rise of this purpose-driven storytelling through the AI for good movement.
Yeah, it's a journey from the wallet to the toolbox to the heart.
I love that. So let's start with the wallet, the business side. Because let's be honest, Hollywood is a business first. If the map doesn't work, the movie doesn't happen.
Always. That is the harsh reality.
The article talks about the AI first pipeline. Now, to someone who doesn't know, that just sounds like corporate buzzword soup. But the problem it solves is actually very human and very painful. Can you kind of set the scene for us? What's the traditional model that's so broken?
Sure. So imagine you're a filmmaker. You've got a brilliant idea for, say, a sci-fi epic. You have a script. Maybe you paid a concept artist to draw a few sketches of your alien world.
Okay.
You walk into a studio executive's office and you ask them for $200 million.
Based on a stack of paper.
Based on a stack of paper and your ability to sell a dream. Now, from the investor's perspective, that is terrifying. It's a high-risk, high-cost gamble. They have to make this massive imaginative leap. They have to just trust that the words on the page are going to translate into a visual spectacle that people actually want to see.
And investors, as a rule, they hate imaginative leaps. They like data. They like guarantees. They want to know exactly what they're buying.
Exactly. And this is why we have sequelitis. It's why we get the same superhero movies over and over again, because betting on Iron Man 12 is just safer than betting on a brand new, unproven universe. The sunk cost of developing new IP is just too high.
So if you spend $50 million just developing the look of a new world and then the movie flops, you're in big trouble.
You're in huge trouble. So enter the AI first pipeline. This is how it changes the equation. It completely flips the workflow. So instead of asking for money to start developing the visuals, you use AI to build the visuals before you even pitch. Raman highlights a really fascinating case study here, a global entertainment project called Robojit and the Sand Planet.
Robojit and the Sand Planet. It sounds like a Saturday morning cartoon from the 80s, but the tech behind it is completely cutting edge.
It is. And this isn't theoretical. They didn't just walk into the pitch meeting with a script. They walked in with a universe.
All universe.
The source material lists 3 specific assets they had ready to go, and these terms are important. First, finalized high-fidelity environments.
Okay, let's pause on high fidelity.
Yeah.
We aren't talking about some blurry generated image that kind of looks like a desert, right?
No, not at all. We are talking about detailed, textured, lighting correct 3D environments. The kind of thing that usually takes a whole VFX team months to build. They had the sand planet built. You could look at it. You could probably move a camera through it. The investor didn't have to imagine the world. They were looking right at it.
That's a huge psychological shift. You're not buying a promise. You're buying a product.
Yeah.
You're seeing the goods.
Precisely. The second asset was completed character models. In a traditional pipeline, character development is so slow. You do sketches, then clay models, then rough digital models, rigging.
It takes forever.
It takes forever. Robojit had production-ready assets. They could show you exactly how the hero looked, the texture of his armor, how the light would hit him.
So they skipped that whole let's figure out what he looks like phase and just went straight to here he is.
And the third asset, which might be the most critical for closing a deal, was developed narrative assets. They visualize the story.
Is this like a storyboard on steroids?
Think of it more like pre-visualization or pre-V, but at a much higher quality. They could show key scenes already in motion. They proved the narrative flow actually worked. So by the time they asked for the money, they had effectively removed all the development risks.
This is what really struck me. It's about leverage. If you can do all of this on a laptop or, a small server farm, before you sign a contract, you own the IP. You aren't begging the studio to build it for you. You're showing them what you've already built.
That is the aha moment. The article explicitly mentions that this approach allows new IP to compete with the established industry's risk-averse, franchise-dependent playbook.
They actually call out the superhero formula, don't they?
They do. And it's a valid critique. The superhero formula exists because it's an insurance policy for studios. But the Robojit model suggests that if independent creators can lower the cost of entry, if they can prove their sand planet is just as visually stunning as the latest Marvel planet, but at a fraction of the cost.
Then the excuse for not funding original ideas just evaporates.
It evaporates. It levels the playing field. You don't need $100 million to show you can make something cool. You just need the smarts to use the pipeline.
And think about the efficiency. The movie doesn't get made. You still have these assets, the 3D models, the environments. You can pivot to a video game, a VR experience, a graphic novel. The work isn't wasted.
That's a great point. In the old world, a failed script is just paper in a drawer. In this pipeline, a failed pitch is still a hard drive full of usable digital assets. It feels like the power dynamic is shifting back toward the people with the ideas, not just the people with checkbooks.
Exactly. It de-risks the creativity itself. It lets you take a swing at something weird or new without bankrupting yourself. Okay, so we've secured the bag. We've used the AI pipeline to get the green light without selling our souls. Now we have to actually make the movie. And this brings us to the second pillar. The creative sandbox.
Right. And specifically, the article focuses on Google's role here.
Which is interesting because usually when we talk about big tech and Hollywood, it's adversarial. It's Silicon Valley is trying to automate Burbank. But the tone here feels really different.
It is. Rahman emphasizes that Google's strategy is explicitly about partnership. They aren't trying to replace the filmmaker. They're trying to upgrade the toolbox. They call it a dynamic new cinematic sandbox.
So what are the toys in this sandbox? We have names like VO and Gemini. They sound very futuristic.
They're the engines behind this. VO and Gemini are the generative models. The article explains they allow for rapid video creation and customization using just natural language.
And natural language is the key term there for anyone listening who isn't a coder. That means I don't need to know Python or C++ end. I just need to know English. I can just type a cyberpunk city in the rain, neon lights reflecting in puddles, shot on 35mm film, and the AI generates it.
Essentially, yes. But the article goes deeper than just text to video. It talks about cinematic with flow.
Flow. It sounds very zen, like be water, my friend.
It does, doesn't it? But in this context, flow refers to the workflow. It's a tool designed for creating, editing, and managing these high-quality video clips. And there's also visualizing with flow, which is for storyboards, and that pre-visualization we talked about.
Okay, I want to push back on this a little bit. Because every time we hear about generating video and automated editing, there's this visceral reaction from the artistic community. Where is the soul? Where is the human touch? If I can just type, make me a sad scene, is the director just a prompt engineer now?
That is the multi-billion-dollar question, isn't it? But the article and the philosophy Google seems to be pushing here is very specific about the limits. They state that these tools are not designed to automate the director's job.
So the director isn't obsolete?
Not at all. In fact, the source argues the director becomes more essential, It says the human is needed for weaving together complex narrative and character arcs.
Because an AI can generate a shot of a crying woman, but it doesn't know why she's crying. It doesn't understand the buildup, the pacing, the emotional resonance, as the article calls it.
Exactly. Think of it like this. Before, a director also had to be a construction foreman. They had to worry if the set was built, if the lighting rig was safe, if the rain machine was working. Now, the AI handles the physics and the rendering. The sandbox gives you the physics engine and the assets. The director stops being the foreman and gets to be the architect.
I like that. You're moving up the abstraction layer. You're spending less time on logistics and more time on story.
Right. And Ramon points out that Google is integrating these tools into existing workflows. That's a really crucial detail. They aren't saying, throw away your Avid or your Premiere Pro. They're saying, here's a plugin that makes your pre-production 10 times faster.
Which connects right back to the Robojit example. If you have these tools, VO, Gemini, Flow, you can iterate faster. You can try 10 different versions of that sand planet scene in an afternoon, instead of waiting 3 weeks for a render farm.
And that speed enables creativity. If it costs $50,000 to try an idea, you play it safe. If it costs $5 to try an idea, you get weird. You experiment.
Get weird. I think that should be the slogan for the future of cinema. We need more weird. But it's not just about speed, is it? It's also about access.
It is. These tools lower the technical barrier. You don't need a team of 50 animators to visualize a scene anymore. You can do it yourself or with a very small team. That allows for a level of intimacy in the creative process that these huge blockbusters usually lose.
So the cinematic sandbox isn't just a place to play. It's a place to prototype, to refine, and to build without that massive overhead.
Exactly. And that ability to get weird or to get specific actually leads us perfectly into the third area the article covers. Because if the cost of production drops, then the tools become accessible. What kind of stories do we start telling?
Right. We've covered the how and the how much. Now we get to the why.
The article highlights a shift toward AI for social impact.
This centers around the AI for Good Film Festival. Right?
Yes. This is a fascinating initiative. It's a competition seeking original works from filmmakers globally, but there's a very specific catch to entering.
There's always a catch. You can't just submit your killer robot movie.
Not unless that killer robot is teaching us about recycling. The rule is that the films must specifically leverage artificial intelligence in their creation, but the goal must be to drive positive social change.
So they're actively incentivizing the combination of high-tech tools and high-minded purpose.
Exactly. They are looking for films that address global issues, humanitarian crises, environmental problems.
You know, usually when we talk about AI for good, we're talking about protein folding for medicine or optimizing energy grids. We don't usually talk about it in context of filmmaking. We tend to think of movies as entertainment, full stop.
That's a great observation. And Ramon argues that this festival signals a maturation of the industry. We are moving from pure efficiency, how can we make this explosion cheaper, to cultural and social resonance.
But here's the connection I'm seeing. This is only possible because of the pipeline we talked about in segment 1.
Tell me more.
Well, if I want to make a movie about, say, the impact of rising sea levels on a small island nation, in the traditional Hollywood model, that is a hard sell. A studio exec says, where are the explosions? Where's the merchandise? Who is the superhero?
Can we put a cape on the climate crisis?
Exactly. They won't fund it because it's niche or risky. But if I am an independent creator using the AI first pipeline and I have these Google tools, I can make that movie. I can make it look like a blockbuster. I can show the flooding city with high fidelity VFX, and I can do it on a budget that doesn't require a studio sign-off.
That is the democratizing power of this technology. It decouples production value from mass appeal. You can have high production value for a niche, purpose-driven story. You don't have to water down your message just to get the budget to tell it visually.
It empowers the message. You don't need $1 billion to change the world with a story anymore. You just need the vision.
It redefines the why of filmmaking. It's not just about ROI, it's about impact. And the AI for Good Film Festival is basically a proving ground for this concept. It's trying to show that these tools can handle weightier subjects than just sci-fi and fantasy.
It's interesting to think about the global implications, too. The article mentions this is a global call for entries.
Right. Think about a filmmaker in a developing nation. They might have incredible stories to tell about their local reality, but they've never had access to the VFX tools to tell them on a cinematic scale. This pipeline levels that playing field. Robojit is a global project. The tools are global. The barriers of geography and capital are just eroding.
So we might start seeing stories from parts of the world that have been largely ignored by the big studio system looking just as good as a Marvel movie.
That is the hope. That is the social resonance Raman is talking about.
So let's try to synthesize this entire picture. We've covered a lot of ground here in 2026.
We have.
We have the Robojit model proving you can build the universe before you buy the camera. We have Google's Veo and Gemini acting as the new paintbrush. And we have the AI for Good Festival giving us a new canvas.
And the thread connecting all of them, as Rakesh Raman concludes, is collaboration.
Right. It's not Skynet.
It's not Skynet. Raman calls it a multifaceted evolution. It's not a monolithic takeover where the machines run the studio. It's a messy, complex, exciting merger of human intent and machine capability. It's a partnership.
It feels like we are standing at the edge of something really huge. Like, remember when digital cameras first came out? Or when editing went non-linear?
I think this is bigger. Those were changes in workflow. This is a change in conception. This changes the relationship between the idea in your head and the image on the screen. It removes the friction.
The friction is gone. The distance between I have an idea and here is the video has never been shorter. But that leaves us with a challenge, doesn't it?
It does.
And this is where I want to leave our listener today. We've talked about how great it is that the barrier to entry is crumbling. We've celebrated that anyone can build a high-fidelity universe like the Robojit team.
But here comes the provocative question.
You know, I have to ask it. If anyone can make a blockbuster quality movie on their laptop, are we on the verge of a golden age of original storytelling? Are we going to see an explosion of diverse, weird, beautiful stories that never could have been funded before? Or are we just going to drown in noise? Are we going to see a billion different versions of the same derivative content just because it's easy to make? If everyone is a filmmaker, is anyone a filmmaker?
That is the question of the decade. The tools are there. The pipeline is there. The cinematic sandbox is open for business. The only variable left is human creativity.
The tech can build the sand planet. It can render the lighting. But it can't decide if the story is worth telling. It can't feel the heartbreak or the triumph.
That part is still up to us. The machine is the instrument, but we are still the musicians.
And that, my friends, is up to you. If you had the power of a Hollywood studio on your laptop right now, and according to this article, you basically do, what story would you tell?
Something worth thinking about.
Thanks for diving in with us today. It's a brave new world out there in Hollywood, and honestly, I think the best movies haven't even been made yet.
I really hope you're right.
Catch you on the next Deep Dive.